You are live. Hey, what's up, everyone? If you're watching this on the rerun, please fast forward. I'm going to give it about 5 minutes until people come in. But again, if you're watching this on the rerun, please fast forward probably 5 minutes or so. Two people. If you hear, if you in the chat, or if you're watching right now, let's chat. I'm going to start talking in about at 8:05. It's going to be a nerdy chat tonight. I just finished watching a council meeting from earlier. Yo, they like Queen, man. When Queen go up there, I just learned Queen's name is Denisha today too. Can I check this out? The North Star. Check this out. The North Star. Dang. Okay, I got this. Two viewers. That's probably me. $8:05. What's up, y'all? Just got a new viewer. Again, if you're watching this on the rerun, for the people who aren't able to catch it live, please fast forward. I'm going to start the presentation in about 5 minutes. Wait for some people to get in here. If you're watching, I hope you had a good day. And I hope you're ready to learn some things. I'm doing this by myself tonight. Mary entered the studio. Who's Mary? They would need to connect their mic cam before you can add them. Aww. Dang, he probably shared the wrong link. We're gonna start in 5 minutes. I'm just gonna allow people some time to come in and join. I'm gonna share it on Instagram. If you in the chat, leave a chat. Let's have a talk before I start. It's going to be a good conversation today. It's going to get a little nerdy, and I hope I'm able to simplify it. I think that's one of my greatest strengths. I could take complex information and I can simplify it. I learned that when I was I was a professor assistant when I was in grad school at Dartmouth College. And I returned home and I did some substitute teaching. So I know how to teach a little bit. I'm sharing this link on Instagram right now to get some more people in here, but we're going to start in 3 minutes. 7 people, whoever you are, thanks for tuning in. And I hope we have a fun chat tonight. At 8:45, Noble is going to come on and we're going to have a conversation about the private and public enterprises. That should be really entertaining. Link. We are live. Oh. In 2 minutes, I'm going to start. Mary, is that Noble? We are live. I'm starting in 2 minutes, y'all. 8:05 on the dot. So I have some time to fully get all my ideas out there. And then there's another conversation that's going to happen at 8:45. All right, share it on Instagram, share it on Facebook. Hope everyone's had a great day. Oh, I should have tagged. Oh, Willie Moses. Bro, Willie Moses commented on my post that I put today. If you don't know, Willie Moses is the grandfather of Shakur Stevenson. And I posted a post today about Alif Muhammad sharing how the city of Newark basically got his boxing gym shut down. But he just commented on my post. That's cool. All right, 1 minute, we starting, y'all. I'm going to share my screen. All right, let's go. It's 8:05. So tonight I want to talk about my plan. It's called Newark30. I'm not sure who had a chance to check it out. If you had a chance to read it, definitely let me know in the chat. But let me just give you some backstory. Many of you know I'm originally from Newark, and sort of like the moment that changed things for me was my grandmother working for the Sharp James campaign, and his headquarters was so like where it was, I lived directly across the street from where his headquarters was. So that was the moment that like let me know that it's a possibility of being mayor. Was when my grandmother used to have me running around in that campaign office, looking at all the signs and seeing her order people around. Like that was a fun time for me. So I always had this idea of being a mayor in the back of my head. But as I got older, I just knew I didn't want to do the whole Democrat Republican thing. So, long story short, I ended up at grad school at Dartmouth College. And first, I my initial major was globalization studies. And I went there to figure out to study which like just what are untapped markets in the rest of the world. I tried to write a whole thesis about, well, not tried to write, but like that was my intention to go in there and write a thesis about some undiscovered untapped market out there. I basically was a globalist. I was going out there to with goals of trying to get hired by a bank and make a lot of money. But what happened was I met so many students there who had these lofty ambitions. And I just was looking at them sometimes like, there's no way you think that you can go out there and do the things that you said that you're going to do just because I didn't think they were competent enough. So that made me question myself. It made me question myself. And I challenged myself to just dream bigger. So while I was at Dartmouth College in 2013, I started taking out ads on Twitter. Jamar Youngblood, mayor for Newark in 2020, and and this was in 2013, so this was right when Roz was in there. But I would get like a lot of good feedback on Twitter, and that was the first time I knew that I wanted to come back to the city and serve. So I'm studying globalization studies, and I switched my path from thinking about finance and how I can go find untapped markets to studying how local governments operate around the world. And I studied so many countries. I've studied so many countries, things that municipalities are doing in Vienna, in Spain, just everywhere. I studied a lot. I had a lot of teachers who had that context as well. So I was able to learn a lot about how local governments operate around the world. And this was a book right here. It's from Jane Jacobs. It's called The Death and Life of Great American Cities. This book really, really opened me up. This book opened me up big time because her whole idea was that cities are built from the ground up. During this time, there was a guy named Robert Moses. He was in New York and he was responsible for knocking down a bunch of the black communities or other minority communities and building these highways and building a bunch of infrastructure. But Jane Jacobs, she fought back against that. And she just was arguing that outsiders are not more important to a city than the locals. So she preached building local economies. And that really opened me up on the type of ideas that I wanted to bring back to Newark. So fast forward when it's time for me to discover or find my platform, I had that context. I also had the context of like, I studied capitalism, like we all study capitalism. Like capitalism is around us. So I'm familiar with capitalism and Adam Smith and all that just by default. But then I started learning about socialism and these socialism ideas. Then I started learning about Ronald Reagan and the free market and Milton Friedman, all these other economists. And my mind is just spinning. My mind is just spinning because I have all these influences. But it didn't really hit me until Project 25 came out. And I wasn't inspired by Project 25 because of the content that was in Project 25. I was inspired by the branding. Everyone was talking about this idea, Project 25. Project 25. It was everywhere. It was on the news. It was everywhere. So I was like, how can I build my version of Project 25 branding wise? And that's when I came across Newark 30. So what I want to do is I want to go through our Newark 30 plan step by step. And each time I'm going to come back. And if you have questions, if you have any questions or if you have any comments, please put them in the chat. So this could be a two-way conversation. I mean, or if you don't, I could just like lecture you until 8:45 when Noble comes on. But please, let's chat. And yeah, let's go. So I'm going to go through the Newark 30 plan. I'm going to share my screen and go through our Newark 30 plan section by section. So let's do it. Share this window. At the stage. All right. So can y'all see this? Let me know if y'all can see it. Someone, please. I need an assistant tonight. Let me know if y'all can see this in the chat. All right. Can you see it? What's the link that had all of the candidates? Awesome conversation. What's the link that had all of the candidates? Oh no, that's not for today. My bad. I'm reading an old comment. My bad. All right. So I'm assuming that everyone can see this because I didn't see a comment, but let's start. Let me just read this. So the vision statement for our Newark 30 plan is over the next, wait, why is this not showing? Okay, live. Okay, yes, y'all can see it. Okay. Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate it. Okay. So the vision statement, over the next 4 years, we will lay the foundation for a stronger, more self-sufficient Newark that can withstand economic shifts, federal funding cuts, and national political changes. Through transparency, economic independence, and strategic planning, Newark would be in a position to thrive regardless of who is in power in Washington, D.C. At the core of this transformation is a commitment to reducing barriers to essential needs. Participating Newark residents will have low barriers to accessing housing, clothing, food, and medicine, ensuring they can fully engage in the economy and build stable, secure lives without being left behind by the free market. By providing a public alternative to corporate price gouging and economic exclusion, we create a city where every resident has the foundation to work, grow, prosper without fear of being left behind. This approach will not only make our city safer by reducing economic desperation, but it will also strengthen Newark's reputation as a forward-thinking leader in the urban renewal and social innovation. Newark 30 is not just about survival, it is about creating a new social and economic model where residents have real choices, real opportunities, and real security. A model that proves self-sufficiency and prosperity can exist outside of traditional capitalism. We believe this approach will improve the quality of life for all residents as a greater access to Essential needs and economic opportunities will lead to a safer, more stable, and more engaged community. When people are supported with the resources they need to thrive, the entire city benefits. So, this right here was the whole key of my plan, creating some type of new system where every single resident feel like they are a part of it. And this comes from like the top businesses like Prudential to newcomers in our city. Just what system can we create where everyone feels included? And when I was watching Ras Baraka get arrested last year, the first thought I had was Donald Trump is going to be petty. He's going to start pulling some of our funds. And that's when I was like, okay, we need a plan that focuses on Newark being more self-sufficient. Because during the Biden years, you had a lot of money flowing to Newark. You had a lot of money flowing to sanctuary cities. You had a lot of money flowing into democratic cities. But then when you have Donald Trump come in, he have different agenda, and we may not get as much money as we got before. So if we don't have some type of model for self-sufficiency, you can imagine we always gonna just it's always gonna be like this. And then we're gonna have our local leaders blaming the federal government for our lack of progress. So my idea was like, okay, what can we do to take matters into our own hands? And that's when this plan came into place. So if you don't have any comments, I'm gonna go to the next section. But please, please, please ask me questions if you feel confused or if you have any ideas or anything. So this part, I think this part is really, really important. And again, these were just a bunch of ideas I had throughout the years, and I pieced them together cohesively in this one plan. So the three pillars of Newark's transformation. I feel like before we even start to transform, or before we even start to like go try to change things in our city, I think we need to follow these three steps. So the first step is building culture. Newark has always been a leader in innovation, industry, and social justice. Building culture means protecting what makes Newark special, from its music and art to, most importantly, its people. It's about honoring the city's diversity, creative energy, and legacy while moving forward with bold and inclusive ideas. When people feel proud of where they live, they take care of it and work to make it better. We need to make Newark residents proud to be from Newark again. Here's the key point here. We need to make Newark residents proud to be from Newark again. And like when I travel and I spent time in Brooklyn, I spent time in Oakland, those two cities I see very similar to Newark, where residents are just so proud to be from them cities. The first step here is building culture. Just letting Norkers know the rich history of our city. I know these past few decades we've had a shaky history, but Newark has been known to some really, really cool things. And if you watch my documentary, I tried to highlight some of those cool things. So I think the first thing we have to do is just build that culture and let our Newarkers know that this is an amazing place and we all should be proud to be from here. The second thing is after Newarkers feel good about being from Newark, and they feel prideful and we know our history. The second thing is building a competency. This is about giving Newark residents tools and knowledge they need to succeed, whether it is learning new skills, understanding technology, or knowing how to start a business. This pillar focuses on making sure everyone feels confident and prepared to shape their future. A proud city needs people who are ready and able to lead it forward. Yes, so after residents know who they are, they feel pride to be from Newark, then we give them the skills. I think giving them the skills without that pride may be a little backwards because they would just take those skills and leave, which most people do. Most people leave Newark and they never come out. Like, I mean, so many people who say it's, yep, Sarah said the city of poets. Yep, that's one of many things, Sarah. We the city of many things, not just poets, but you're right, the city of poets, mainly Amiri Baraka. So that's cool. But what I was saying about the competency is that so many people they dream of living Newark. They dream of leaving Newark. And I think that's because they don't have that Newark pride. So I think the first step is building that Newark pride. The second step is building a competency. Then lastly, we demand excellence. So once we have built culture and given people the right tools, we raise the bar for everyone, including our leaders, businesses, and ourselves. We set high standards for how the city is run, how services are delivered, and how we grow Newark's economy. This keeps the city strong, safe, and successful for the long term. We start with the culture because it is the heart of the city. When people feel connected to where they live, they are more motivated to make it a better place. Next, we focus on building skills and knowledge so our community is not only proud, but also capable of learning, growing, and shaping its future. Finally, we push for excellence to ensure Newark does not just survive, but thrives. The goal is to set high standards and never settle for less than what we expect from ourselves and our city. These are the three steps. I feel like right now we're trying to demand excellence, but residents don't feel proud or they don't have the skill sets to be excellent. So how can we demand excellence if that foundation is not there? So I think the three pillars focuses on creating that foundation, giving them the skills, and then demanding excellence. I think we're requiring so much from residents that are not even aware on how to be excellent, or they're not aware of how other municipalities operate. They're not aware of the rich history of Newark. There's so many residents that's growing up in Newark and they're just like questioning their existence because they think Newark is the worst place in the world. But I've studied places and I know for a fact that this city is amazing. Train station, airport, we have a port, we have highways, we have everything that is needed. We have an amazing park. We have so many local parks. So we have everything that's needed for Newark to be one of the best cities in the world. But the foundation is not there. So that's why the three pillars are building culture, building competency, and demanding excellence. Sarah says the Dodge Poetry Festival was elevated when they moved their headquarters from Morristown to Newark. See, I didn't even know that. I didn't even know they started in Morristown. But yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Hopefully, more organizations and more programs and more events or festivals like that will come to Newark. I think we could attract them. So I'm going to go to the next section if there aren't any questions about the first one. Excuse me. So this section is called Understanding Newark's Constituents. Most people, they like to look at constituents and residents by black, white, Latin, brown, poor, rich. I tried to look at it completely different. Newark is a city of rich diversity, not only in culture and history, but also in lived experiences of its residents. To create effective policies and initiatives, it is essential to understand the varying needs and desires of its residents. This framework categorizes Newark's residents into four groups. The first group is emergency. These are residents who are struggling with basic necessities such as food, a shelter, and safety. The second is surviving. These are residents who are barely meeting basic needs but not secure. The third one are residents who are doing okay. They are residents that are able to meet basic needs but with little to no savings or investments. And the last section is doing well, financially stable with disposable income and savings. This group this grouping is based on each resident's current level of stability and access to resources. From those facing urgent needs to those pursuing long-term prosperity, every group carries unique challenges and aspirations. Understanding these differences is the first step towards building a city that uplifts everyone. By addressing the immediate struggles of residents in the emergency and surviving group, while supporting the growth of those who are in the doing okay and doing well groups, Newark can foster equity, opportunity, and lasting progress. The strength of our city comes from its people. By creating inclusive policies, making smart investments, and focusing on solutions shaped by the community, we can make sure that everyone moves forward together to a brighter and more prosperous future. Sarah says NYC tourist pages are seeking alternative hotel spaces and seeking shopping opportunities in Newark, New Jersey. You're exactly. Sarah, let me tell you a story real quick before I get back into this. I was I was downtown one day and I seen a group of a black woman and they all had Cowboys gear on. They was just walking around downtown and I stopped and I spoke to them and they had no idea of the history here in Newark. They didn't even know where they like they had no idea just where they were. They just knew this was the cheapest and closest option to get to East Rutherford. These are Cowboys fans traveling all the way up here just to go to a game. Imagine how many communities that we can attract, just like these set of fans that want to go to these different attractions that's around this area. Newark can definitely be a tourist hub, and that's something that we can promote. So there's a whole economy in just tourism alone. So Sarah, definitely agree with that comment. But again, the idea here is this is how we should be categorizing our residents. So imagine if the city understand has some type of label for every single residence. I think we can come up with better and more organized ideas to actually serve the residents because the people in doing well they probably just want better. Well, not that they probably just want, I know they just want better lights, a better nightlife. They just want 24-hour stores in the downtown area. But people that are living in emergency, they want shelter, they want food, like they're homeless. So I think if we can categorize each residence based on these needs, I think that's way better than just categorizing them on black, white, because that tells you nothing. Even though 75% of black residents are living under poverty, you can assume that many black residents need emergency surviving and doing okay help, but you just never know if you don't have these specific labels. So if there's no questions, I'm going to go on to the next section. And again, if you just tuning in now, please rewatch this a little later or watch it tomorrow whenever you have some free time. We just went over the vision statement, the three pillars of Newark's transformation. I think this section is really, really important. That's why it's first. And I just handled the understanding Newark's constituents. And now let's go to phase one, laying the foundation. We have spent the past year campaigning and speaking with thousands of Newarkers online and in person. The same three issues come up every time. People want cleaner streets, they want a more affordable city, and they want more control over the decisions that affect their lives. Because the more power residents have, the less room there is for corruption. Phase one is built to attack these three problems directly. First, cleaner streets. In phase one, we will hire more people to clean the streets and expand the teams responsible for trash pickup, bulk waste, and illegal dumping. We will increase staffing and sanitation, create neighborhood-based clean teams, and use data to target the dirtiest corridors and lots. We will enforce rules and absentee landlord. We will enforce rules on absentee landlords and commercial properties that refuse to maintain their sidewalks and dumpsters. Clean streets will not be a volunteer project. It will be a core service of city government, funded and staffed at the level residents deserve. Listen, I think we overrate or we overthink how simple this problem can be. Many residents just come to me and they like my many ideas to help the poverty or to help our working poor, to help our homeless, to transform things, to make it more transparent. But at the end of the day, many residents just want clean streets. Like downtown is nice. Sometimes it's clean, but if you go into the different wards, specifically the West Ward, I took a bus 2 weeks ago because I was going to Upper Montclair. So I took a bus and the West Ward, there was just so much trash. I'm talking about in front of people's homes and just everywhere. So like my initial idea is just we just got to hire more people and I'm going to explain how we're going to do that later on, but that's just like it's as simple as that. We need more people on the streets cleaning. So that's the first That's the first step of phase one. The second is ending corruption and giving residents more control. We will adopt best practices from progressive municipalities such as Checkbook NYC, a user-friendly a platform that lets residents track government spending in real time. This will show who is getting contracts, what they're paid, and what they deliver. Participatory budgeting will give residents a direct say in city spending, ward by ward, so public dollars follow public priorities instead of insider deals. These accountability measures will make Newark's government more efficient, more honest, and more transparent, and they will start to close the door on the consultant class and political connected vendors who profit from confusion and secrecy. So Checkbook NYC is a tool that all New Yorkers have access to where they can go find and search all government spending. They can see the contracts, how much the contracts were worth. They can see how much each city they can see how much each city employee makes. All the financial data is there, and that's because they publish or they pass some open data laws that basically enables this. We don't have that here right now. We are in the dark. Like there's some activists or some residents that say we're $600 million in debt. Tap Into did an article that says we're $250 million in debt. Last week, our business administrator went at a council meeting and said we're not in debt at all. Meanwhile, New York just said that they're in a $12 billion deficit. And then Jersey City came out today and said they're in a $250 million deficit. But we're not in a deficit. That's why Checkbook NYC or some form of that is needed in Newark. And another thing is we need to allow residents some power over how their tax dollars are being spent. That's happening in some municipalities, but again, it's not happening here. There's one person in City Hall who determines the budget, and that's the mayor. He's instructing every single city department to spend the money how he wants to spend it. And I just don't think that's good for the city. I encourage you to consider forming a Newark Downtown Committee. Yeah, Sarah, please share more about that in the comments if you have any ideas. I would love to expand on that idea. A Newark Downtown Committee sounds interesting. Third, real affordability. We will use city powers over zoning, public land, contracts, and wages to help lower the cost of living for Newark residents. We would tighten and enforce rent control, strengthen code enforcement, and make sure more residents use their right to counsel so landlords cannot push people out with illegal increases or harassment. We would work with our state legislators to update AMI so it reflects Newark's real economic conditions. We will redesign, renegotiate pilots so tax breaks only go to projects that provide local hiring and real community benefits. City land, tax incentives, and permits will be used to make Newark accountable for the people who live here, not for speculation. Again, these three things are things that are in our power. We can go back, we could review those contracts. This is the same thing that the mayor in Jersey City and New York is doing at the moment. They are going back, looking at all of the contracts and deals that was made by their previous administrations. And that's why they realized that a bunch of their financial practices were just wrong. A bunch of their deals was wrong. Another thing is our AMI. Like right now, so right now, how they figure out what's the affordable prices are, they take all of the surrounding cities. These could be the rich cities too. All of the cities in the Essex County. So you got Livingston, you got all those rich cities, they're included into us finding out our AMI. So they take the average price of all these cities and they say, okay, this price is affordable. Right now, the average price that they say in Newark is around $125,000. How is that affordable for Newark residents who there's so many Newark residents who make $10,000 in a year, but $125,000 is our AMI? That's why we want to work with our state legislators to get that fixed. There's a council person in the Bronx that got the Bronx AMIs lowered. So like that was a big deal. So that's something that I'm definitely going to study and figure out how he got that done. Affordability is more than rent. We would cut red tape for small businesses and home based entrepreneurs so residents can open and grow local enterprises without paying consultants just to navigate permits. That's happening as well, where so many city hall employees are getting kickbacks for just doing their job. So there's a lot of corruption happening. We would fix the entire outdated process where people are faced to show up in person, make endless calls, and wait on slow responses. Doing business with the city will become faster, simpler, and fully modern. We will use technology to save money across departments and redirect that time towards improving daily lives. Every tool the city controls, from land use to procurement, will follow one test. Does this make life more affordable in time or money for Norkers? As part of laying the foundation, we will immediately redirect funds to improve senior quality of life and invest in Newark's youth. Newark's youth and our seniors, that's something that's really, really passionate to me. Like our youth, like this is a big reason why I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do is because our future. Like I'm 37 years old. I had so much fun in my life. I did damn near everything I wanted to do. Now I want to just give the rest of my life to designing these new systems so the people under me can have a city that they like and a city that there's opportunity. So I'm going to speed through this a little bit because I have 10 minutes before the guest comes on, but a city's strength is measured by how it treats its most vulnerable and its commitment to future generations. We will set the standard for how Newark values its residents by ensuring seniors can live comfortably and remain engaged in shaping the city they help build. At the same time, we would create opportunities for youth to grow, lead, and thrive, making Newark a place where young people see a future for themselves. We will also improve Newark's technology infrastructure to make it easier, cheaper, and safer for residents to find information, access services, and do business with the government. By modernizing our tech stack, we will streamline processes, reduce costs, and enhance security. We will publish open budgets and contract data, automate key parts of permitting and records requests, and give residents simple digital tools to track complaints, repairs, and projects in their neighborhoods. By hiring more people to clean our streets, using executive authority to drive down the cost of living, and put real power in the hands of residents, phase one builds a Newark that is cleaner, more affordable, and honest. We are also building a civic culture that values transparency, participation, and shared responsibility. This is how we define what it means to be from Newark, a city that takes care of its own and thrives from within. So that's the thing. The first phase is simple stuff. Keep the city straight. Keep the city clean. Me using my executive authorities and helping build some type of civic culture where more residents feel involved and engaged in our local government. Phase two, investing in public economies. This is the part that I think is going to be really cool when we have our next conversation. But the basic idea here is to expand the public goods by taking direct ownership in key industries where residents are being overcharged. The city will launch public operations in housing, food, clothing, and pharmaceuticals. I feel like those four things are the essentials. My big goal is to create some type of system, some type of economy where where we have residents that are making our city better by cleaning the streets, by hanging out with seniors, by mentoring youth, and in turn they will be compensated with some type of currency that I speak about here, and then they can use this currency to go spend money or go purchase apartments or let's say go pay their rent, go buy food, go buy clothing, and go buy medicine. So that's the idea of a public economy. When I say a public economy, I mean we should have industries that are catered to keeping costs down, but also generating revenue so we can hire more people or hire more Newark residents, and then also like keep more money in our city. So much money is leaving our city. I know Invest Newark did a report and they said like at least $2 billion is leaving our city. I mean, if $1 billion was spent more in our city would be substantially better. So the whole idea about this plan is to build a public economy where we can keep as much money in our city as possible. Newark Bucks. So Newark Bucks is a kind of radical idea, but like at NJIT, they use something called um, Tech Bucks. At Rutgers North, they use something called Raider Bucks. And that's just a card that residents can go and they can use this digital currency to spend at local stores or even stores on campus. I'm saying we can do the exact same thing. I'm thinking of a world where residents don't have to go slave to go earn dollars out there in a private market. Again, what if you can clean two streets? Let's say if you clean two streets, we give you Newark Bucks. That those Newark Bucks can be spent to go buy food. Those Newark Bucks can be spent to go buy a new coat. Those Newark Bucks could be spent on some of your rent. So I'm thinking of a way of a system that can go beyond our residents just slaving away for USD. Because as I'm going to talk about in our next conversation, that's just a challenge for many residents. So again, yeah, I get it. Food security, housing assistance, healthcare access, clothing support. Transparency and government and governance reform. Newark's current budgeting system lacks real-time tracking, accessibility, and accountability. I shared this. To modernize governments, we will implement a checkbook Newark system to show real-time financial transparency. Oh yes, and this is something I want to do. I want to live stream as much as I possibly can. So at any given moment, residents can tap into a live stream and see what the mayor is up to. I feel like that's revolutionary. Nobody's really doing that, but I think that would give residents a direct access into how decisions are being made. I want to share as much as I possibly can with residents. Emergency preparedness. This is timely because the idea is that we will invest in climate resilience, a disaster response, and public safety to ensure the city is prepared for any crisis. There's a lady named Linda Carter. She's been going to the city council meeting for over 2 years now, asking them, what is the emergency preparedness plan? After COVID, she just was like, what is the emergency preparedness plan? We don't have one. And that came around again with the snowstorm. We don't have no plan for some of these disasters. So I think creating an emergency preparedness plan, that's something that's really, really needed in our city. And lastly, the third step is investing in the people. So building workforce and ownership opportunities. And the idea there is look at the emerging careers and try to train residents beyond that. Connecting training to jobs, apprenticeship programs, education reform. One thing I'm going to advocate is us putting more education in our schools that is directly tied to career outcomes. Learning about Shakespeare, I guess that's cool, but for our students, I just think our students should be maybe learning about Shakespeare on their free time. I mean, maybe not. Maybe Shakespeare can help them with words, but maybe you could tie Shakespeare into career development somehow. I just think we need to be innovative with the stuff that we're teaching our children. And I think what we should be teaching them is about the real world, mainly the economy and all the type of careers that are out there. So that's the final stage. And let me just read this one paragraph. The end goal, a self-sufficient and transparent Newark. Newark30 is a proposal to secure Newark's future politically and structurally. The goal, I got a comment. A Newark Downtown Alliance will promote, enhance, and revitalize Newark's commercial district for residents, shoppers, and visitors. Yep, I agree with that, Sarah. I agree. Preparing our workforce, improving infrastructure, and investing in technology, we would build essential systems Newark needs to support long-term growth. More importantly, Newark30 is a commitment to transparency, accountability, open budgeting, full reporting of city funds, spending, all this stuff. Listen, please check this out. I'm going to bring up our next guest, but the whole idea is to build something that can be self-sufficient, something that can generate revenues in new ways other than raising property taxes, and something that could be innovative. I feel like we have the infrastructure that we need right here in Newark to build our own internal economy that can withstand a lot of the federal cuts and a lot of the federal sentiments where again one year you got Obama, then you got Trump, then you got Biden, then you got Trump. That's not sustainable because as you can see, our local government has had trouble managing all of that money. We got a lot of money from Biden. Where is it? Apparently, we are in a $600 million deficit. I don't even know if that number is true, but I don't know. But thank y'all for listening to my Newark 30 plan. I hope you read it. I hope you digest it. And if you have any other questions, please reach out to me. Now, wait, how can I stop sharing this? Okay, I think I stopped that. So now I'm about to bring up Noble. You there, Noble?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, man. What's going on?
Hey, how you doing, man? Good to meet you for the first time here, and
Yeah, same,
one way
man.
or another.
Yeah, same. You and I have been going back. Well, not really going back and forth, but
Oh,
you and I have
we're
been chatting.
you know
What'd you
we're on
say?
the same page with a lot of things. I'll tell you that
Yeah,
we're on a course on a lot of topics here in Newark.
that's true. Mainly, what we do share is this this drive or this passion to solve poverty somehow,
Yes.
and that's when our approaches differ a little bit.
Hmm.
So if you want to start, and then like I don't know how you want to do this, you can just this could be a casual conversation.
No, yeah.
Just
Basically, we summarized the tonight's debate on two topics here. And you spoke on it a little bit in regards to public enterprise is a superior concept over private enterprise. And I'm in the position of supporting private entities and private enterprise. And I think you spoke on a little bit in regards to your concepts of public enterprise, like you said, having people clean the streets, getting certain kind of bucks and things of that nature.
But I
Um,
do want to share is
yeah,
only in the context of solving poverty.
yes,
That's right. So right. So that
hmm
so like that's my stance. I just want to be clear on that. Where I think so like I believe public enterprise is better for solving poverty than private enterprise
yeah,
because my take is that there's no conscience in the private market. In the
hmm
private market, the sole drive is to maximize profit. And I think whenever you have the choice of maximizing profit
hmm
or taking care of the well-being of poor people, most times most companies are going to choose to maximize the profit. So when it comes to solving poverty, I feel
hmm
like a public economy is needed to step up where the private economy has no interest in stepping up. So that's my stance on the public economy.
and I want to clarify that the reason why public enterprise can never work is because of political influence, um, red tape, bureaucracy. I work as a subcontractor for New Jersey Transit, right? So we contract up by New Jersey Transit. We get a job, we win a bid, and we go ahead and we start to perform the job. Uh, Topic arises. Hey, listen, something has to be done here. This is a new add-on to the job. The job cannot go forward until this next level is addressed. In order for me to get to complete my job, there's a change order involved. When that change order comes in play, what happens? I send the request for the change order to transit. It goes to the bureaucracy, to the red tape. I don't get an answer for 2 to 3 weeks. I'm actually stopped in my position. It takes $3 of public money to do $1 of work in not just our city, but throughout this country. This is what's wrong with public entities today. And you see it in anything. You name it. Paying for somebody to be on food stamps today. For a person to get $500 in food stamps, do you realize it costs over $1,000 in administrative fees to get them that 500? Are you aware of that?
Well, the question I would have is that system is not fully transparent. So you don't know where that leak is like you don't know where
No, I
that
do
leak is
know.
going.
I can pinpoint every dollar. I can tell you the administrative buildings, the landlords who own the buildings. I can tell you the people who are running the public buildings that are sending private our tax dollars to people who would need assistance. It's the biggest scam, and I wrote something about it. I called it profit in poverty. because these administrators, our politicians benefit when people become and get on a system. When you get a couple dollars on a system, they make money on you. If I pay for your Section 8 and I pay $2,000 a year Section 8, it costs the taxpayers in Newark $6,000 to get them that too. People don't realize that. Why do you think? Where do you think this deficit come from? You know, we had a surplus in 2022 in Newark. What happened to that $76 million surplus? And you just said, what we have, what, 600 million deficit today? Maybe more.
Apparently,
Maybe
apparently.
I think it might be $1 billion. I think actually, I think it's getting up to $1 billion. And they're so unclear. And I like the fact that you're pushing for transparency. We don't even know what our deficit is. We don't even know what we owe. And when you start seeing this happening consistently, and all the politicians and their beautiful fundraisers, throwing $100,000 events. Remember Ross Barack when he first ran for mayor? What was his slogan? When I'm mayor, you're mayor. When I'm mayor, you're mayor. That was a bunch of BS, wasn't it?
Listen, so okay, so from all right, so what I'm hearing from you is that
Mhm.
the bureaucracy is what's wrong, not necessarily the programs, right? Because you can argue that
Programs are
too,
good. I like the
right?
programs.
But it's just because there's no transparency. So again,
Mhm.
like you said, it costs more to take care of people who actually need the help
Yep,
because people are taking money from the pot that's supposed to go to the poor,
exactly.
right?
There's a
So
good
is
example
it?
of this.
Yeah,
There's
go
a good
ahead.
example of this, real quick. There's a good example of this they needed an outdoor facility, outdoor restroom in New York. And they started getting up with all these concepts. They came up with a budget of $2.5 million to build a tiny little bathroom in the park, a little square building with a couple stalls. A person actually built this thing. It looks like a castle. You can Google this, look it up. He was less than $500,000 out of pocket, out of his own money. What he built was 10 times better than what they were proposing to build for several $1 million. Why? It goes back to what I'm saying. The cost of administrative fees in our city, and not just our city, all throughout our country, is blown up. This money cannot go to our people that are in need. How many people are getting evicted that money could have went to? If we're paying $6,000 for one person to get $2,000 in rent, we literally could utilize that money in a streamlined fashion with getting three people $2,000 as opposed to one person and $4,000 going to the administrators and the rental on these buildings that we're paying for in the city of Newark. And it's not just the rentals that our money's going to; it's the people that work there. If you notice how the Democratic Party in the city of Newark hired more people over the last 5 years than ever before, where do you think our surplus went to? It went to public works. We did hire more police in that. There was a good budget for that. I'm happy about that. But where did the other? And the reason what they're doing is they're hiring their voters. You know, and this is where our money's going to. So this is the club that we got to. This is what you refer to and I refer to as the machine, the Democratic Essex County machine. We know how it works. We know the game. Every single person in the city of Newark knows the game, but for some reason they're mentally compelled to maintain the machine. And I'm trying to figure this out for the life of me. Why? Why the hell are you voting for the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome? And this is what is the definition of insanity, right? To repeat the same course and expect something different to come out of it. Like you're running your head into this wall. I'm going to get through this wall if I just ram my head in it three more times. It's the same thing people are doing when they're voting Democrat in the city of Newark.
Yeah. So okay. So I think now that I get to hear more of your ideas,
Mhm.
you and I are kind of saying the same thing. We are noticing that there's waste in some of these programs,
Absolutely.
right? There's much waste in
Mhm.
some of these programs, and now the question becomes, what do we do once we discover and we find that waste? And my idea of that public economy is saying, listen. So you have the private enterprise. There's a lot of residents in our city who can afford the luxury. They can afford the fine dining. They
Mhm.
can afford the fine clothing. I'm saying the private economy that is for those residents, though, right? So those residents who can afford the luxuries of life, you
Mhm.
go and you participate in this private economy. Once we find a waste, once we cut the red tape, once we save money and invest that money back into the residents.
Mhm.
My idea of the public economy was, what can we build that gives residents ownership?
Yep.
It can provide jobs and then
Mhm.
still provide some resource, or provide new streams of revenue, so we don't have to raise property taxes.
I can
So
give you a plan for that if you want to hear.
yeah, go ahead. Let me hear it.
All right. So let's look at downtown Newark. Approximately, if you had a guess, what's the vacancy rate of retail in downtown Newark today? This how many empty stores are in downtown Newark today?
I
If you had to
thought
take a guess, what percentage would you think?
I thought someone mentioned that in the comments, but listen, I walk
No, no,
downtown Newark a lot,
yeah.
and
Just
like
take
it
a wild
depends on what.
guess.
So like it depends on what side you're on.
The
I'm
whole
on
I'll talk about downtown Newark in its entirety, from all the way from the college, Essex County College, all the way downtown to the Star Ledger.
oh,
For
you talking
all
about
that area,
Market Street, Broad Street,
yep.
50%.
I would. That's a good guess, actually. I would say it's close to that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're wrong. But let's say whatever percent. Let's say 25% is vacant. How do we generate revenue for the city residents, people who don't have a means of getting a job today? You have the vacancies. What did we do with the tax abatements with the people who are building and developing? We gave the developers a tax abatement, right? They don't have to pay taxes for 10, 15, 20 years, and they're allowed to put a building up, right? In the promise that that developer who's building is going to bring jobs to the city of Newark and bring low income housing, right? So we gave that developer a tax abatement, whatever it is. Let's say 20 years, and he in return is going to give us housing for low income. Why are we not giving tax abatements to those who are in the retail and manufacturing? And I'm going to say how it'll be sustainable. The model you were talking about, I think you were talking about Newark Bucks and the college you were talking about earlier. That model is actually working. It's actually working here in New Jersey. It's working for a town called Brick Township down the shore. Are you familiar with this? Let me explain how it works. You have your retailers register online. Each retailer gives you a percentage. When you are a Brick Township resident, you have your membership card, and if you go to a certain store, it's going to say 7.5% rebate, 5% rebate, 6% rebate. The person who lives in that town goes to the store, purchases it, it gets registered. That 7% that he just earned from his purchase gets taken off his property tax. Now, how does this translate to a person who is not owning a home? He doesn't have nothing to take off his property tax, but he does have a landlord, right? That landlord in that building, and this tenant, can actually register his card to the landlord. So that landlord actually gets a deduction from his tax, which translates to a deduction to the rent that he's paying. Now, how does this all work? When we started incentivizing people to shop local and have this card, we can now implement this system that works in Brick Township, New Jersey. So from Brick Township to Brick City, we're going to bring the concept of having a rebate when you shop local. Every single store can register for this. Every single restaurant. You shop at a restaurant and you purchase $250 worth of food and whatever, except for liquor. You get back whatever that restaurant wants to give you, 5%, 7% back. You have it on your card now. You can utilize it. You were talking about Newark Bucks. So the system's already in place. We just need to not reinvent the wheel, but utilize the wheel that's already in place.
So
So
you
now,
believe? Yeah,
so
yeah. Go
what?
ahead.
So now the tax abatement that I'm talking about, the landlords who own the buildings with the vacant retail spaces, we give them the tax abatement. We get startup businesses all throughout every one of those stores get a startup business with a tax abatement. The landlord's going to work with the new homeowner, with the store owner. In doing so, we're going to generate more private entities. These stores now we have the citizens. As you know, Newark residents do not shop in Newark, right or wrong. I think you mentioned that one time. Is that
I
correct?
know Newark residents don't work in Newark.
No,
That's for
you.
sure.
I'm pretty sure you mentioned it. I heard you, or maybe it wasn't you, somebody else. Newark residents do not shop in Newark, and you were saying it was you. You mentioned it. You were talking about keeping the money in Newark. This is your
Hmm.
idea.
Hmm.
You know, I want to say this is a good. I'm giving you credit right now. This is your.
No, listen. I'm just here. Listen, I'm just here to hear your
Mhm.
thoughts, because I've
Yeah.
seen a lot of people who we have mutuals who both comment and like and
Mhm.
share our stuff. So I
Absolutely.
thought that it would be a good opportunity for us to just
Mhm.
exchange ideas, which we're doing now.
Yeah.
But my question was, all right, so listen, you truly believe in your heart that outsiders can come into Newark and care about Newark residents, about our working poor residents. You think they are incentivized to offer lower prices, to hire, to
Mhm.
train? You think you can incentivize these outsiders to come in here and do that? And what proof do we have that these outsiders would come into a city like Newark and do it? Because I think Cory Booker tried, all these
Mhm.
other people tried, but look at us now. We're still in the same
They
position.
did. They, you know who they cater to, and you have to see who they cater to. If you notice, all blue states, and I made a comment. You see how all look at Chevron just left California, blue state, went to Texas. Blue states and blue cities are not pervy to those who own their own business. And Cory Booker, Ross Baraka, Phil Murphy. Look at Phil Murphy. He got rid of 6 different power plants in the city in the state of New Jersey. How can who would want to do business in a blue state or a blue city for that matter? So everything you're saying is correct. Cory Booker did not entice private enterprise. You know, Cory Booker enticed private developers, and what were the developers doing? Writing kickback checks as a campaign contributions to our politicians. You know, it's pay to play all the way. You know, nobody's saying, but I'm saying it. And that's exactly what it is. So who got the incentive? Not manufacturers, not those who were in the retail. They didn't get the incentive. I think maybe ShopRite was one place that got the incentive to come to Newark about 20 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever it was. And that was it. And that was the extent. Audible, you know, they got a little incentive to come into to the city of Newark. You know, Panasonic got the incentive down on 21 McCarter Highway. They got an incentive, and that was probably what 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, right? So there was a few small entities. We have Salson Logistics, a big trucking company. They're down Newark. Another big company, private. They create a lot of jobs. Panasonic creates a lot of jobs. I'm talking on a smaller scale with the retail space that's vacant today. And my personal belief is that they're purposely keeping it vacant to destroy everything for new development.
So you mentioned the shop right. That's the perfect example, right?
Hmm.
You're saying that ShopRite was incentivized to come here. There are many food deserts in Newark. So we are relying on a private entity to come and serve our residents food when there are many food deserts here in Newark.
You got to remember those food deserts cost twice as much as ShopRite, so people can't afford to go to those little smaller stores, smaller retails. Their overhead is a lot more than ShopRite, so people will go to ShopRite as opposed to paying double
And
for the same product.
okay, so this is my point. When you look at a lot of public goods, like you look at something like Amtrak, right?
Hmm.
Amtrak is not generating profits, but they are needed. They're needed to
Hmm.
for transportation. It's the same thing. Need these public, so like this public economy that I'm talking about is not for profit, is to
Hmm.
provide services at a
Yeah.
reasonable price. And that's the idea where we say, okay, there's a food desert
Hmm.
on South 20th Street or whatever.
Yeah.
We're gonna implement something there where residents have food that's affordable and they can walk to it. They don't have to
Yeah.
drive to other cities to go get food.
Hmm.
So that's the idea, is to just pick up where these public or these private markets don't want to go because the margins are not there. And
Yes.
there's so
Exactly.
many opportunities for I think these public enterprises. Think about clothing, right? Let's talk
Hmm.
about this. Clothing. Our working poor residents spend so much money on those school uniforms,
Sure.
right?
Mhm.
Why can't we create those school uniforms here and provide jobs to our residents, right? And then sell those same school uniforms for probably the same price, but we still generate our own revenue, and then we can sell those same school uniforms to other municipalities.
You mean manufacturing clothes in the city of Newark?
manufacture them, wholesale them. We could figure out how we can figure out how we're going to do it. But I think manufacturing is a long term
Yeah.
idea that I think is possible here in the city.
Well, that's exactly what this Trump tariff war is about. It's about stopping child labor overseas for making a pair of pants for $1 because they're utilizing child labor, as opposed to bringing that job back here to America. So when we tariff these countries that are abusing their residents for pennies on the dollar, they're manufacturing whatever the stuff that we need. This is what's happening. So the tariff war is working. We have $9 trillion coming back to America, already signed deals. It's now to $1 trillion from Japan alone that's coming back to America. Newark should be capitalizing and preparing to gain some of this money. We have the greatest port in America. We have the greatest airport. There's no infrastructure. Look at Brooklyn, how it blew up. Brooklyn has nothing on Newark. Zero. Nothing. We are 10 times better than Brooklyn. And what's happening is we are we have politicians who are catering to people who don't live in Newark. All these new development, all these new buildings, $3,000 for a one bedroom. You think that's for a Newark resident? No. Our politicians are preparing and opening the doors and laying out the red carpet for those who don't belong to our city. You know, what do you go? How many times have you been down to the landlord tenant court in Newark? Out of curiosity, I mean, if you had to say.
Landlord tenant court, is that in the housing authority building?
No, it's just so it's on Market Street. It's basically if you go there, you'll see people lining up to get ready to see the judge and they're fighting their eviction because they can't afford their rent. They haven't paid the rent in a few months. The landlord is now getting ready to evict them in landlord tenant court. When you see that, and I go to landlord tenant court and I try to advocate for as many people as possible. I also help people try to go with the attorney attorney general in regards to getting housing somehow, getting some kind of help assistance, And the problem is we have advocates that work for the city of Newark that are doing this and they're doing a great job. But at the same time, it's like putting a Band-Aid on a person with a severed arm. The amount of evictions and foreclosures that are happening. In fact, we just had a number today, 26% increase in foreclosures in the state of New Jersey since November of last year. That's just a few months ago, 2 months ago. So we are seeing, and this number is going to grow. We're going to see more foreclosures. Why? Because look at the fuel costs to heat your home. Look at this. We're in the coldest winter today. We have homes today and buildings with no heat right now. They're working with. They got generators are coming out. Emergency generators are trying to help these people. The problem is, like you said, outside money is not going to come into Newark to help Newark residents. I agree with that, but when you create the incentive for them, the same way Ross Perot could create the incentive, Cory Booker created the incentive for developers, and they did come to Newark, and they did build, and they did receive their tax abatement. Why are we not doing that for manufacturers?
But they did that through backroom deals and it wasn't
Of course it
transparent.
was, yeah.
You know,
It was
so
transparent because it was voted on in front of the council,
yeah,
and
it
all the
was
councils
vote.
voted for these developments. It's
Yeah.
public.
All
It
right.
wasn't backdoor,
All right,
but
but I mean, when you look at the council member McCallan from a few years ago, who
mhm,
was indicted and he got caught taking
sure,
bribes
mhm,
from developers. Like this is a common
absolutely.
thing that so like when I speak of transparency, I'm talking about the
Yeah, we got gold. You
full.
got Gold Bar Bobby Menendez, who's sitting in jail right now because of taking money from developers. Yep,
Yeah, so I'm
exactly.
talking exactly. So I'm talking
Yep.
about just being transparent on the
Mm-hmm.
full on the full process, so
Hmm.
residents know how these deals are being made. That's not happening right now. So right,
Yeah.
so my thing is like our biggest issue is literally transparency.
Hmm.
Like that's our single biggest issue here in Newark.
Yeah.
Is just being honest and being transparent and being compassionate with our residents.
Well, we don't have the
That's
politicians for that. And hopefully, you and I are going to change that somehow. But our politicians are not in the business of transparency. They're in the business of fundraising, backdoor deals, like you said, and continuing on and giving free turkeys and book bags and all those little things before school starts, and showboating how great they are, and their toy drives and all these wonderful little things they do 3 times a year. And they can, and here we are, our citizens. Well, look how great these politicians are. We're going to vote for them again. They just gave away free turkeys. If they were doing their job, you wouldn't be need to give away these free turkeys. You would have enough for everybody. But like I said, when you start really looking at the cost of what it costs to get somebody $1 of public service, $1 of welfare, $1 of housing, whatever it is, it's going to cost $2 to $3 to give them that $1. And
So, all right,
politicians know this. It's in their
all right,
budget.
that's fair. So again, that's why I mentioned transparency. So
Yes.
again, your issue is not necessarily with the programs. You're just trying to say that money is
Yes.
wasted and
Of
stolen
course.
by these
Hmm.
greedy politicians, right?
Absolutely.
So okay. So that's what I'm saying. That's why the
Hmm.
core of my idea is like, okay, let's start. And again, I'm gonna keep saying this. Let's
Hmm.
start with being transparent, because if the public can see every
Hmm.
decision, if the public got access to every meeting, it's hard to be corrupt,
Hmm.
because they have access to it. The fact that
Yeah.
nothing is transparent, that's our biggest issue. So
Yeah.
I don't know if this is about, I mean, again, I do want to entice these private corporations to come, but we have
Hmm.
Audible, we have Prudential, we have
Yeah.
Panasonic, we have some strong pillars in the
Hmm.
private market,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, so it's just like, I think we entice them by improving quality of life for residents. We
Hmm.
entice them by providing a city where, or providing them with a city where residents have access to money that they can splurge on.
Hmm.
Because again, if you look at black residents, 75% of our black residents are living in poverty,
Of course.
right? And then you
Absolutely.
have these private companies that go into our communities, they set up shop. Let's talk about a beauty supply store.
Hmm.
Many of our black and brown women and Latino women spend money at these beauty supply
Yeah.
stores, right? What's wrong with getting some residents together and saying, okay, here's some startup capital, go build a co-op. Go
Hmm.
build a co-op, go build a beauty store co-op, and now you can set your own rules. You can give back to the community. That money that is being spent is going to be invested right back in the community, because right now, all these chicken shacks, all these beauty supply
Hmm.
stores, they these business owners do not live in Newark. They're
Of
paying
course
those
not.
taxes
Yeah.
somewhere else.
Hmm.
So what I'm talking about is legit going into competition, direct
Hmm.
competition with all of these small businesses. And
Yeah.
I don't want to say all of the small businesses, but the small businesses who are committed to extorting and exploiting our poor residents. That's where it starts, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of money that our working poor residents are spending. Just
Hmm.
imagine if that money could be recycled and put back into the community.
Well,
And
that's
I
exa-
just
yeah.
don't know. I just don't know what private companies that we can go to and say, please take care of our working
Hmm.
poor. Please care for our working poor.
That's where we're talking about incentivizing the existing structures, the landlords who own downtown today, who are they're losing revenue with a vacant store. And if the city of Newark was to give them assistance and giving them an abatement, saying, "Hey, listen, I know you're paying $70,000 property tax on your building, um, and the rent in the store is $10,000 a month. It's exorbitant. So we need to have that landlord bring the cost down and have the city absorb the cost of that store. And by getting residents, creating businesses here in the city of Newark, how do we get people into the store? We talked about what the brick township concept is. Having cars where Newark residents shop local, they can get money off their taxes, money off their rent. So you have to create the whole ecosystem at once. It all has to come into play at once. If you can't just create the store. You can't just create the tax incentive. Everything has to come into play with a full structured plan from beginning to end. I worked as a project manager. Everything I do, I come up with a concept and implement it, fulfill it with everything in play at once. When you come up with blueprints for a building, all the blueprints from the electrical, plumbing to the structure itself is all comes into play at once. So by the architect has it all done one time. This is the same thing. We need to have an architect to create this ecosystem for business in the city of Newark. I personally feel that I'm capable of doing that. I personally have it's not just a concept, but I have a clear path to creating this in a city. The same way I do public work. We're working on a job right now. We're doing the air train building in the Newark Airport. I was at the meeting with Ross Baraka, where he was incentivizing minority business owners to try to maintain this job, try to get some of this work. $3.5 billion of Newark Airport work is out there. 25% of that goes to minority business owners, women owned business companies, DBEs, and we don't have half as many residents going for this work. Did you know a certain percentage requires Newark residents specifically to go get that work? And then if you were in the three community, Hudson County, Essex County, and Union County, you can also qualify to get some of this minority work. We had to, Ross Brock had his own clique. I was kind of disappointed because he had his own, what they call the men's and women's club, you know, and nobody else was there. And people say, no, he advertised it. He had, when you label it men and women's club, you kind of seclude everybody else away from that meeting. The entire city of Newark should have been at that meeting. Port Authority was hosting the meeting, saying, "Hey, we got all these great jobs." The company I worked with, I was one of the companies there that was a guest speaker. How come it was so isolated and shared with just a group of people, Ross's circle, and not the entire city of Newark?
Well, that's the current culture. That's the current culture of City Hall, man. But what
Yeah.
I do want to say, Invest Newark is doing your idea. Many of those businesses
Mm-hmm.
on, not many, but a few of those businesses on Halsey Street
Mm-hmm.
have been getting their rent paid through the city somehow. So that idea of paying rent to incentivize these companies to come here, it's
Mm-hmm.
been in effect.
But
I just don't.
that's only half. Remember, you have to create the whole ecosystem at once. That's only half the system. I could put fish in water,
No,
but if I
but
don't
they
feed
also
them,
have those cars. Like they have those cars
I
where you can
yes,
shop local. My point is that like that's not like that strategy has been tried and is not generating revenue. And like
if
at
you look
what
at
point would it
Brick
generate
Township,
revenue?
if you look at Brick Township, it's working. The problem is not structured correctly here. It's not nowhere near. We have all these. I don't know one citizen that has that card that you're talking about. You show
I
me.
don't know either.
There you go.
I don't know
My point
either.
exactly. So we have a system that's already in place in Brick Township, New Jersey. You can Google it. Anybody on there can Google this. Go to Brick Township, look at this tax incentives for Brick Township residents. You'll see it on there. You're going to see the list of businesses, and you're going to see a percentage next to each business of what each resident of Brick Township gets back on their taxes. And you'll see this is a system that's working. Don't reinvent the wheel. Let's utilize the wheel that's already in place.
But Brick Township don't like does not have the same
No, Brick
constituency
Township's
that we
only one
have.
fifth the size of Newark.
But
Newark is
most of,
5 times that. Yes.
yeah, but look at the all right, so look at the amount of people working the working poor in Brick Township, and you look
Mm-hmm.
at the working poor here. I'm talking about beyond downtown Newark. I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about going into these communities and
Yep.
essentially making every community a walkable community where they
I
have
agree with that.
access.
That's
You
what
know
I'm
what I
saying.
mean?
We got so many vacant stores around everywhere that we could be start filling these stores up with this system. Again, all these things have to come into play at the same time. The cards of rebates to the so the tenant who's renting can take their card to that corner store, to that bodega, pay for $60 worth of food, and now he's got 10% back or whatever percent back. That's actually actual cash that can be utilized to his landlord, his or her landlord.
So
Yeah,
here's my problem
it's a
with
real.
those. Again, my problem with those bodegas is that they are charging our residents more than the
Of
actual
course,
goods, right?
absolutely.
Because again, it's exploitation. I do not have faith in these private companies
I,
to go into these black communities and say, I'm going to
Mhm.
make your life better. It's more,
Yeah.
it has been consistently like, I'm going to exploit you. But again, Noble, listen, we got
Mhm.
to do this again, man. This was fun
Absolutely,
chatting with
man.
you. I didn't even know who you was before Facebook, but
Hmm.
now we had a good chat. We share some good ideas,
Yeah.
and hopefully one day we can do this again, man.
Sounds like a plan. Hey, I'm looking forward to it.
All right, thank you, man.
You got it. Take care,
All
man.
right, yeah, you
Bye
too.
bye.
Oh, that was fun. Okay, we got some chats. Keeping up in Newark. If Newark doesn't shop in Newark, who do you think is shopping? Most people I know won't come to Newark due to its history, despite gentrification. We keep us open because it's local and affordable. Well, we do have some shining spots like NJ Pack. We have the Prudential Center. So we have Whole Foods. A lot of those people who shop in Whole Foods, they come from other places. Specifically if you're driving through, Whole Foods is the closest place to a lot of people. So again, we have a solid foundation. It's just expanding on the foundation. And again, my ideas are for all of the wards, not just downtown. I think the West Ward gets forgotten about, South Ward gets forgotten about. I really like what's happening down neck. I like that, like a down neck and the Ironbound, they figured it out. Like they figured it out. You got a dentist, you have restaurant, you have a cafe, you have all that stuff that's walking distance. The only problem with down neck is the air quality. But when it comes to commerce and it comes to like building or designing a community that's walkable, um, Down Neck figured it out. How can we bring that same energy to the other wards? That's essentially what I'm talking about. And this public economy, let's be real, it probably would start in the West Ward or the South Ward or some parts of the Central Ward first, because you're not going to go into the East Ward and say, here's a city-owned store. They have like the competition there is, you'll be hurting a lot of businesses if you go try to put a public owned store down there. I'm talking about in our food deserts. I'm talking about serving our residents that's living in poverty, where if you take a good that's supposed to be $10 and we can make it $6, that could be life changing at the end of the year. So I like Noble's idea of incentivizing residents to go into these private businesses to shop, but I'm also committed to my idea of this public economy where we can rethink what work look like, where we don't have our residents going into these job interviews, having the code switch, have to change their voice. Like, look at my hair. I'm promoting like authenticity in our local government somehow, where people can just be themselves. Because if you're honest and you're authentic and you're compassionate and you're kind, like that should be rewarded more so than how much you swindled the system. And right now, capitalism is just about swindling the system by any means. And I'm saying at North, we could start something different. So I understand this idea of a public economy is not going to be welcomed by many of the conservatives or many of the Republicans or many of the MAGA crew, but I think we have to empower our residents, give them ownership. And I think the best way to do it is by letting them run a business or about saving them some money. So that's all. Listen, if you guys or if any viewers have any questions, I'm here to chat. I do this on Wednesdays from 8 to 9:30. The first part, I went over our Newark 30 plan. That was fun. Sam was in, Samantha was in here, and we had a good chat about our Newark 30 plan. But yeah, that's it. Is there another comment? My aunts always brought the kids out to Newark for school and clothes shopping. Yep. Newark. Oh, I remember those days. Opinion on local legislators, ideal expectations for our local legislators, man. See, I got in, not, well, I didn't get in trouble, but I shared something about one of our assembly members last week, and somebody hit me up like, oh, you got to delete that because of XYZ relationships. We just, man, I'm exhausted. I can't talk about that tonight, man. But our local legislators, they don't like, listen, all these people, I'm convinced that these people do not care about working poor residents. I'm almost convinced that these people do not care about working poor residents. And how I really came to that conclusion was watching the Mickey Sherrill inauguration and watching everybody at the party dancing, drinking. And I'm just like, yo, people are out here struggling, and y'all just gonna be out there just dancing and partying in their face. Like, I understand she won the election, but to go dance and to party and to do all that, it's like, I don't know. But a lot of our local legislators were there and they was just dancing away while ignoring so many calls from residents talking about how things are so expensive and how slumlords don't care about us. Like, that's another thing I don't get. We care about everything else besides these slumlords. Why is that? I seen your post. Understood. We care about everything else besides these slumlords taking advantage of our poor residents. Nobody is out there rioting or on the streets for that. Why? Because they do not care. And they like that. They got those jobs and they make hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they feel good looking down on everybody else, saying that, oh, they need me. So that's where they get their sense of entitlement from. I think what we're going to do, we're going to be measured by results once we get in office. Like, don't judge us by like our network or what parties we're at. Judge us by how we reduce prices. Judge us by how many jobs we created. Judge us by how much transparency we're giving our residents. Again, I'm going to repeat this. Zoran Mondani got in there. Less than 30 days, he admitted that New York City was in a $12 billion budget or a $12 billion deficit. Solomon in Jersey City, he just came out today and said, our city is $250 million in debt. Our elders or our ancestors not ancestors, I'm sorry, our elders and the city council meeting, they tell me that we're at $600 million in debt. Tapping 2 did an article said we're $250 million in debt. Our business administrator went in front of city council and said, everybody said we're $250 million in debt. Show me the proof. This is our business administrator. A few years ago, Raj Baraka said we were in a surplus or we got out of debt, but there's no transparency to confirm that. And he said that during the election season. So our local officials, they're lying to us. They're lying to us. They're lying to us only so they can look good during election season. So if transparency is not the core of anyone's agenda, do not vote for them because they just want to continue to exploit us. Amina Bay started talking about transparency after she heard me talk about it. I was campaigning against this lady for a long time. She only said transparency at the NAACP event. So you know what I'm gonna do? Well, maybe I shouldn't tell y'all what I'm gonna do, but maybe I should because it's only 9 people here. I don't know. I don't know who's actually watching this, but I'm going to the city council meeting this month, and I'm gonna ask her. I'm gonna say, Miss Amina, you campaign on transparency. So let's be transparent. Are we in debt? Yes or no? What is our deficit? I'm gonna ask her straight up since she campaigned on that. And she's my council person. So I'm gonna go to her and I'm gonna ask her straight up, are we in debt? And let's see what she says. And let's see what she says. I doubt she's gonna answer that question. And Crump is gonna say, thank you for your comments. Next speaker. Like, I'm like, I try to be cordial with these people, but these people get me so riled up. Audacious mayor won it. Exactly. Yup. I'm going to be audacious. I'm going to be audacious. All right. Listen, y'all. If y'all have any questions, we have 3 minutes left. Please, let's chat. But I think this was a good conversation. Having Noble on was kind of risky because everyone was like, who is Noble? We don't know that guy. I think he's a Republican. But again, I'm not Democrat. I'm not Republican. I just try to be sensible. I just try to be sensible and I try to actually like create programs or find ideas that actually help our people. And I am going to look into that idea of what they're doing down in Brick. But again, Brick is not the same as here. And I don't think any businesses are going to be incentivized to go into our areas where they're food deserts, because again, there's no real money there. Like there's no value for these businesses to go into these communities because they don't see those customers as having money. When you look at the businesses that are there, liquor stores, chicken shacks, beauty supply stores, these people know that we're going to spend our money on that. So that's why they're there. So I'm just talking about going into these communities and I'm competing with these exploiters and maybe making them step their stuff up too. Because if you have a public entity that come into business, folks need rebates, cash back. Folks do need rebates, cash back, but it's like okay, yeah, you get a rebate for buying a gallon of bleach or a liter of bleach for 3 times the price. Like, yeah, you can get a rebate. It's like, I don't know, you already been exploited. So you're going to get a rebate for getting exploited. Why not just go directly and say, you need this essential good? Take this essential good because we're not trying to get 10x our profit. We're trying to get 1x our profit. That's simple economics. So yes, folks do need rebates and cash back, but it's like from who? Exploiters? I don't know. It's 9:30. Thank y'all for tuning in. I like having chats with y'all like this. So let's see. I need a topic for next week. I'm gonna figure it out. And I'll see y'all. Hope y'all have a great night. Peace, y'all.